Live to Melbourne. I'm joined by the Liberal member for Casey, Aaron Violi. It's a delicate balancing act for all concerned, including the opposition. We're only a year out from the next election, so governments and oppositions surely need to be disciplined in terms of spending commitments.
Great to join you today, Kieran. And you're right. I mean, in a high inflation environment, discipline on spending is required. And we've seen for 2 years now, and I've been very critical of the Treasurer and the government, their increases in spending. It's the $209 billion in increases over the last 2 years. But also something that's not talked about enough is the $45 billion in off-budget spending that they've committed to since being elected. While that doesn't sit on the budget sheet, it still drives inflation. And we're seeing the revenue has gone up significantly because of exports, bracket creep, minerals, but the spending has continued. And in such a high inflation environment, it should be a contractionary budget, not an expansionary budget.
For the opposition, we spoke to Angus Taylor earlier, and he's saying that the Treasurer needs to have a structural surplus, not just a windfall surplus off the back of higher commodities. The other challenge he's setting is greater relief in terms of cost of living relief. Can both things be achieved right now, or should it all be simply about trying to put downward pressure on inflation, as difficult as it is right now in terms of cost of living? Governments shouldn't be putting money, and as you said, you put it, delivering an expansionary budget at this time.
And the reality, Kieran, is that we're paying the price for 2 years of inaction by this government. They weren't prepared to make the hard decisions in their first two budgets, and now we're in this really tricky position where inflation is entrenched at 3.6%. Much of that downward trajectory on inflation was essentially lapping the high spikes that we had from those supply side issues. So it is a very tough environment to be working in. That's why the hard work should have been done earlier. But it's two separate issues in terms of that cost of living relief. As an example, when the Coalition were in power, Treasurer Frydenberg and Prime Minister Morrison cut the fuel excise, but that was temporary, it was targeted, and it was for a 6-month period, so it wasn't adding to the structural deficit, which is what Angus Taylor was talking about. What are those long-term solutions to bring down some of the costs? I mean, looking at technology and how we can invest in technology to bring down the costs in health and aged care while still delivering the outcomes for patients and for those that need it. That's the challenge. And 2 years in, this government, they're $1 short and they're a day late on all the economic challenges that the Australian people face.
I've just seen a story. I want to put this to you. It's a breaking story, so we're getting immediate reaction from you on this one. This is on the WA Today website, and it says one of the men arrested at the weekend over a violent home robbery of an elderly Perth couple had been released from immigration detention last November as part of the controversial High Court ruling. As I say, this is on the WA Today website reporting this. This masthead can reveal that the individual, 43, is one of 3 men accused of a violent attack on Ninette and Philip Simons at their home in Girraween in Perth's northern suburbs on April 16. So a big development in the case off the back of that High Court ruling, and that suggestion and report there coming out of Perth today. Aaron, what's your reaction to that?
Well, that's a shocking report, and my heart goes out to the Simons family. That sounds like a very traumatic experience for them, and it's another example of this government failing. They're failing the economic challenges we face, and they're failing on national security. We shouldn't forget that there was 3 meetings that the Minister for Immigration was too busy to attend with the department in the lead up to that legal case. If he had been involved in that 12 months ago, the potential to stop what is happening with these criminals being released in this alleged criminal activity today could have been avoided. But the Minister has not been across the detail. He hasn't made the hard decisions when it comes to keeping Australians safe. And it's really tragic to hear that report. And I guess we'll wait for more information. But it shows why you need to be so strong on borders and making sure that the Australian people are safe. There's 2 core responsibilities, Kieran, of a federal government. It's providing a strong economy and it's keeping Australians safe. And this government is continuing to fail on both measures.
Member for Casey, Aaron Violi. We'll talk to you next